My name is Chris Hill. I'm from the SindyXR team as the chairman and CEO of SindyXR. I'm joined with a number of interesting people for this wellness journey conversation. I'd love to sort of do some introductions here, maybe starting with you, Dr. Cavo, my partner in crime, and maybe Charlie, just give a little bit of background of Palm's transformation.
So I'm Dr. Charlie Cavo, and I am actually an OBGYN who is no longer practicing traditional OBGYN, but I still do quite a bit of women's health. It's more in the field of preventative medicine. And the practice that we started about 13 years ago now, it's hard to believe, was all about primary prevention, weight loss, and resolving chronic conditions like diabetes, cholesterol, and these kind of things. And through lab testing and de-prescribing medications, our practice has done, I think, a very good job at utilizing nutrition and lifestyle changes in order to resolve chronic conditions that continue to rise in our population.
Excellent. And Dr. Cavo is calling in from the beautiful state of Connecticut. On the other side of the world, we're so pleased to have Dr. Anjali Zende from the Reliance Foundation Hospital. Dr. Zende, I know it's a little bit later in the day for you from Mumbai, India. Maybe just a little bit of your background.
Thank you. I am a cardiac rehabilitation and preventive physiotherapist. I've been into this field since past 20 years now. And I'm glad that I'm at this platform, which is looking forward to make positive changes in a lot of, as in people at population at large, by using what we are looking forward to the most anticipated or used tool, which is AI. So I'm looking forward to being a part of this initiative.
Excellent. And Srinath, you have a very interesting relationship, and we're able to introduce us to Dr. Zende. Maybe a little bit of your background and how you came in to know her, please.
Chris, thank you. I came to know her as a patient-doctor relationship. Very simple. I've been, I think, a beneficiary of her and her team's care and attention to my cardiac health. I'm a patient at the cardiac rehab center for over 2 years now, and that is why I think it's a phenomenal effort that all of them do at the center. And when Subrato told us about what is it that you're doing, I think how do we actually bring together the best of both worlds, so to speak, in terms of impact and scale? Because as Anjali said, scale is something very, very much in demand in India. You add anything of a denominator of 1.4 billion people, I think there's a lot of scale. And I think we need all the hands on deck and technology, so to speak. So very happy to share our conversation here. Thanks, Chris.
Excellent. And last but not least, my partner, Subrato Basu from the Research Board. Subrato is traveling today. I can assure you that he is the most distinguished looking of at least the males on the call here. And Subrato has done an amazing job of connecting the East and the West on this call. And I want to say thank you, Subrato.
Thank you, Chris. We have been knowing each other for over a decade now. And what excited me most with respect to this initiative is that we are making a huge difference in the lives of humans, lives of people, bringing them back to their normal life and ensuring that they are happy, their family is happy, and they can lead a good life ahead. So I'm very excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Well, it's great. And the word human, a very important term in this day of artificial intelligence and a lot of amazing technology innovations we're having here. But it's great to bring both sides of the world together in a very human experience, because ultimately it's about the patient experience, as Srinath referenced. Dr. Charlie Cavo, I'd like to sort of start with you a little bit and just sort of lay the foundation for, as you see the best practices in patient care. We are living in a very interesting world where there are new technologies or new ways of defining best practices as we move forward here. And I'd love to start the conversation with you just in terms of what you're seeing around metabolic health, what you're seeing around best practices, how you're managing your business and your patients, and how you see things, in present day.
Sure. So I think the where we medicine right now is exciting, because I think there's a pivot that's going on with regards to the accessibility that our patients have to information, and it's driving more questions, and it's driving patients to take more control of their healthcare, albeit there's a wild west out there on the internet also. So some of the information that people grab onto is not accurate. That being said, there's plenty of accurate information out there. And I think as patients become more advocates to their own healthcare, we're seeing an uptick in primary prevention, which I think is where medicine really needs to start going to. I think in the next decade, I hope that we see a trend downward of chronic conditions that don't need to happen if there's a preventative model that's more supported by traditional medicine. Instead of waiting for people to be sick and watching things get worse, I think we can be much more proactive in caring for people and making nutritional and lifestyle changes, and understanding patients are more curious about their health and preventing problems rather than having problems that are then given medicines to help them along the way. So I think we're in a space where primary prevention is coming online. It's coming online very quickly, and I think the medical community is doing a very good job embracing it, although we could do a lot better.
Dr. Zende, there's a very interesting use of terminology here, sickness versus wellness, and the patient's role in wellness, and your role as patients hopefully become more engaged around their overall wellness. Could you give us a sense from your background and where things look like there in India? How are you dealing with the same sort of situation, given the year we're in, the information that's available? What is the patient's role and your role in educating to get to the wellness part of healthcare versus the sickness part of healthcare?
So in our setup, I would say that we are dealing with two generations apart. So one is the Gen Z, if I may call it, and then the generation beyond those, like probably me, Srinath, and the age group which is older. So the Gen Z, we are dealing with excessive information. Like Dr. Charlie said that, not all the information is relevant. So we are trying to be a step ahead of the Gen Z and trying to, kind of get the right information to them. So that's where the one part of the Gen Z we are dealing with. And the other population who is kind of ignorant and who believes in the way of traditional medicine, and it's no harm in why you can't be believing in traditional medicine. But there are these myths around the wellness, the exercise regime, post any event, post any procedures. And then there's the other aspect of which is called as the preventive. So here, what I would, the platform that I would want to use is to get the relevant information and to, kind of bridge the gap between both the generations, and kind of give the relevant information out to, like I've said, the population at large. So like rightly said by Srinath, that the denominator is 1.4 billion people. So if I'm able to reach out to these kind of people with the right set of information, it's going to be a great deal. Now, what I'm also kind of facing is the trend of health and diseases in India is the Gen Z has been through a different lifestyle habits, and the older generation has been through a different lifestyle habits, or lifestyle, not changes, but lifestyle. So yeah, I mean, bridging the gap between these two and reaching out to a population at large is going to be something very, very interesting.
Charlie, your thoughts? It's interesting, the discussion of Gen Z and the different age groups. It's fascinating. Your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, I think that we see that here as well, with regards to information that comes into the office that, certain age populations will have more hands-on. There's even take-home labs. I don't know if you have those, but people are doing mail-in order sort of labs that's just interesting how they get this information and data that nobody's ordered. They've read about it, and they do a saliva sample or even a blood sample of different sorts, and they come in with data and labs that they are curious about getting answers to. And I think rather than push those people out the door and say that what they've done is not, traditional medicine, I think it's kind of wrong. I think that having an opportunity to educate and embrace new labs that are getting done and understand their curiosity and help them along in their health journey is an important role that we play as practitioners.
It sounds like there's that's both, is that a double-edged sword in terms of the educated consumer, therefore it's the best customer? That's the old line we say in business. Do you find as well, Dr. Zende, that the information, the people coming in with some level of perhaps background that they learned on their own, is that helping with the efficacy? Is that helping the patient journey?
People with knowledge and people who don't come with knowledge, both are a challenge. So giving the right information and holding back a certain set of people from their practices or their beliefs of what they know, and trying to impart certain relevant information to the ones who are ignorant or are not as much educated, is also something, is a mix of people that we are looking out at specifically in the Indian scenario. So I'm at both the spectrums.
Interesting,
So
for sure.
it's quite a balance.
Srinath, we're lucky enough to have Dr. Zende, one of your patients, who's our good friend Srinath, on the call. Maybe if you could give us, Srinath, a little bit of your patient journey. You were in a situation where you had to very quickly go from your 4P consulting, more of a technology background, to becoming an expert in healthcare because it was your health. So could you take us a little bit on your patient journey and how you found the interface with Dr. Zende, and just in general from a patient's perspective? Well, what are your thoughts, sir?
I think for a patient, especially a cardiac failure patient, to go from what you thought was a heart attack to subsequent heart failure and subsequent implant and so on and so forth. I think the first one that hits you is your mental and emotional health. You think you are the He-Man or Superman, so to speak, and you find yourself struggling for even basics. You're in denial. So I think my experience, I would probably bucket into 6 particular themes, so to speak, and I think we will get the benefit of 2 doctors being on call here. And I think the first one, community, Chris, that we've been talking about is patients need to know, one, they're not alone. Globally, they're not alone, and yet they are unique in terms of their health. So which means I often see patients compare notes with others, and I find it very strange. My heartbeat is very different from your heartbeat because we might be having similar symptom, but completely different roots of the problem, the age, demographics, medical profile. So somewhere I think we have to be very clear that you're not alone, and yet your health is unique, or your health profile is very unique. And I think I often find that senior health specialists say that, but patients don't get it. So we'll have to keep reiterating. 2, I think I've heard Dr. Charlie say this often about health and wellness, right? So how do we demystify health when people want to feel kind of gloomy all the time? A lot of people also get attention when they're not well. So I think that's another challenge that we will have to also solve, that we need to demystify health. And the third one for me is, who do you trust? There's plethora of information, experts, doctors. Not all doctors have the same, let's say, the best of bedside manners, so to speak. They might be great at what they do, surgeons, non-surgeons, specialists, consultants. But who do you trust? And trust to me has to be 100%. You can't say like a body temperature, I trust you 98.4%, right? You either trust them or you don't. So I think that trust, how do you trust and how do you assess that trust? So that is where I have a fear about when you say medicine, I somewhere forget the word CINE and I think of SIN. So somewhere even the health fraternity globally is also responsible for them having a poor imagery. Not everybody is above board or thinking about let's say the oath to humanity. The fourth one, is to say that caregivers, I think we must demystify that you cannot go back to your surgeons and physicians daily. And that's something that every single day I'm grateful to Dr. Anjali and her team, because you need to have conversations confidentially without talking to 20 other people, without going to ChatGPT or Google search, right? And how do you make meaningful scientific-based conversation, even if you don't understand? Leave it with them and trust them to come back to you if it were urgent, and trust them to ignore it if they think you're just being paranoid about it. So I think the community of care providers, of specialists, I think is very important to build. And without it actually costing an arm and a leg and a heart. So how do you do that? And I think the fifth point I want to make is with internet, I think what we have had is over data fixation. I've seen doctors, I've seen patients at our clinic or in the hospital actually take a photo of the prescription on ChatGPT. And the ChatGPT is trying to do what a 30 or 40 year of experienced surgeon is actually trying to figure out. It's remarkable, right? So also at the same time, what is relevant and sufficiency? In statistics, we always say relevant and sufficiency test. When do you stop and when do you say no more? We don't need to over test the patients. I think that's also about building trust. Last point, I think, how do we blend? To me, the question that I always ask is, why is it that, let's say, cardiac rehab is not available in every single hospital in India, every single cardiologist or cardiac surgeon is not using it, or so on? So how do we blend, let's say, seniority and expertise and skills with modern day, both technical skill sets, support kit systems, as well as let's say, molecular science progresses? Can you experiment with drugs? I mean, I'm not saying all drugs are great, but sometimes molecular developments, you must be able to experiment with certain things. I think we'll have to blend both. How do we bring all of this? To me, this is what I've observed in the last 2 odd years of saying that if you can keep as a patient, my job is to turn up every single day, positively say that I'm going to get healthy and follow instructions and not overdo it at the same time, and be honest. I think that honesty is underrated. If at all anything, I would call this brand as honest. I think that's what we need to bring, honesty to the entire conversation.
Well, Srinath, excellent points. And one in particular, your phrase, "you are not alone," it really resonates, I think, probably for all of us on the call. It certainly does for me. One of the key value of SindyXR, as you know, is to really understand that feeling of aloneness. SindyXR, as you know, between doctor's visits, it's really the question: what happens in between doctor's visits? You meet Dr. Cavo, Dr. Zende, you have a diagnosis. Sometimes it's really literally rocks your world in terms of that diagnosis, maybe something you didn't expect. And it is a very lonely period in between those visits. And we have seen directly the ability for, in our case, Dr. Cavo and his team proctoring a discussion of patients with like-minded conditions in between visits. And when you do that, it's fascinating to see that whereas you have a one-on-one conversation with a doctor that may involve different things like an A1C reading or a PSA or whatever that may be. But when you're in discussion or with like-minded people with the doctor oversight, you talk about things like loneliness, how are you coping with your condition? How are you sleeping? How are you getting through the day? And the more of that's factored in, I think, perhaps it's hard to judge, perhaps the efficacy isn't as objective and numeric as you would see, but I think clearly the human aspect of the communication is really so important. Subrato, I'd like to just turn it to you briefly, sir. we're now getting into an interesting situation where we're talking about education, a world that you well know from your background at Gartner and the Research Board, in the combination now of perhaps traditional medicine, perhaps untraditional medicine, but now involving new technologies, and even now with the advent of AI. As you look at the current world from your perspective, Subrato, what do you see?
First and foremost is that with the advent of AI, people without the medical degree also have access to insights. So the huge knowledge bank, which is available worldwide, is now made so easy, and people are able to take the second opinion and the third opinion using artificial intelligence. So that's one. Secondly, what I've seen is that it's all about data. The data. So the moment you collect all the data talks to you. How do you decipher the data and apply the data from its bits and bytes to a practical utility in improving lives of humans is extremely important, and that's where technology is playing a very important role. And in my earlier, one of the earlier discussions we all had, Dr. Cavo had mentioned that his main role is to move patients to a deprescription mode, okay, using nutritional engineering, okay, which was very important. So when you look at all these aspects of it, the bottom line is community knowledge, the knowledge bank which is available, using technology like artificial intelligence and deep learning, etc., to mine the data to give outputs which are relevant to humans and to people who are accessing it. And the research companies are now playing a more important role in looking at how the frontier technologies are playing an important role in ensuring that the world is a safer place to be in. So that's what I would say.
Well,
Yes.
indeed, a very good message, the world being a safest place to be. As we finish up here, let me just sort of do an exit question here, starting with you, Dr. Cavo. As you put your futurist hat on, and as you think about what the world could look like over the next 3 to 5 years or so for medicine, what are some of the things that you foresee that's going to material help and change perhaps the way you do business and how you interface with your patients? And what are some of the things you would hope to see over the next few years, and to give us some hope for the care moving forward?
Yeah, I wish there was more time to talk, because the points that just got brought up, there's so much to unpack. And it just, these kind of conversations, they're fun. But when a patient talks and tells you what their perspectives are, it becomes just a hot rod of like, okay, now you just lit me up. And the points, right, that physicians make, there is doctor to doctor kind of points being made. They're interesting, but then you hear from a patient, and the perspective of healthcare through a patient's eyes and the problems and solutions. I don't even know where to begin with what was shared, but I think what resonated with you, Chris, with regards to community and what happens when a patient leaves the doctor's office is key. And I see it all the time in patients. They want to be part of a larger movement that is in line with their health situation. I think that people like knowing that they're not their own, that they're supporting actors and actresses that are going through very similar health problems, and having dialogue with those people and understanding their obstacles and their solutions, I think is critical to a healthier mindset. So there's not so much doom and gloom with regards to what you might be challenged with when it comes to your health, because maybe in those group sessions, you can see people on the other side that have gotten cures and have gotten answers and those sort of things. So I think that a platform like this one, or others, where you can bring in knowledgeable healthcare providers that are specialists in certain entities of diagnosis and share information that's on par and accurate with people with questions. is just, I think, a very exciting place to be in preventive medicine and health and wellness. So thank you for making all those comments. Now, I also would say that going forward, Chris, with regards to the questions that you asked, I think that the combination and support that AI has, not the answers necessarily, but the support that AI can offer medicine is very important to recognize. And I think that the wearables and the data collection that goes into what we can see going on with patients in real time is very useful. And to be able to plug in data, labs, heart rate, these watches that are looking at how many steps you get, all of this information for health becomes available. And AI is available to analyze these data points in these labs and set a trajectory maybe of preventative healthcare for patients. I think that hopefully in the next 5 years, again, people won't be filling up my waiting room who have diabetes. People will be filling up my waiting room who want to prevent diabetes. They want to prevent heart disease. They don't want to go see a surgeon. They don't want to go have heart transplants because we're being treated kind of like we treat a car. We take it into the shop to get it checked out before the engine drops out of it, right? And I think that that's where we're getting to in medicine.
Fascinating. Well, Dr. Zende, we'll leave the final word with you. Any thoughts of anything that Charlie has been saying or we've been saying, or your thoughts for the future through Reliance Foundation Hospital, or anything you'd like to address as we
Yeah, I mean, there are three things which have popped in my head when we are talking about these things. There's something called as a very strong support group that is essential for patients, people, the caregivers, and the treating physicians, doctors, or the specialists, I would say, like one wholesome group or a wholesome family sort of a situation. The second part is that the ability to be present at a certain time when that particular patient or relative or caregiver or anybody else apart from them have those kind of queries or suggestions, or they want to get somewhere, whether it is from a preventive aspect or whether it is from an aspect of getting back to near normal life after a particular event, because from then would start the journey of further prevention of problems. And the third part is the education part, where I would say it is extremely important to instill patience, to make the patients, the relatives, the stakeholders basically understand that it's a journey. Prevention is a journey. Recovery is a journey, and that there are certain steps, there are certain processes that need to be put into place, which is going to help either prevention or recovery process. So that instilling the patients is what I would say as a part of education is extremely important, and to have the right set of information and knowledge around is what I would want, or I believe are the three main pillars going ahead.
Well, Dr. Zende, I can't thank you for joining us on our wellness journey and through Mumbai, India. Also, Dr. Cavo, of course, the journey continues. And I want to say thank you to Srinath, and he's certainly is in good hands with Dr. Zende. We know that for sure, and we're all in good hands with Subrato. So thank you for this conversation. I found it very hopeful, frankly. We live in interesting times, but with the good thinking here, there's a lot to hope moving forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so
Thank you all.
much.
Thank you.